Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the program. Glad to have you here today. Joining me, once again, the government is focusing on men that are not successful with women because we complain about all the hooahs and the women behaving improperly. And back 5 years ago, some dude went crazy and, went through a school and ended the lives of people because he said he was an incel and celibate against his will and all the other issues. Well, this comes up again because now we've got police are being trained to deal with incels in California, because that's a big problem. But I wanted to first talk about, and we'll get into, I got the main story coming up, but we'll give you a warm up here. If you look at the last, I think 8 to 12 incidents, I don't have the number right off the top of my head, because shockingly enough, the news doesn't want to admit that there might be a rise in members of the LGHD TV community kind of going crackers and going into these education centers and going ballistic. But the Nashville one happened, and then there were several more before that and after that. You keep saying it's incels and these crazy white dudes, but actually the last 8 or 12, just in the last year or two, have been done by the LGHD TV community. And then you have Associated Press like this coming out. There's no incredible rise in the LGHD TV people doing these bad things. But when you read down through the article, which I will read down through a little bit here, you'll realize that they keep saying, they're not saying, it's not happening. What they're saying is, well, in comparison to white men, especially straight ones that are also incels, it's just a drop in the bucket. Yes, it is a drop in the bucket when you go back 40 or 50 years. But when you look at just the last couple of years, it's almost 100% the people that have kind of fallen off the edge of the cliff in this particular community. So we're going to go down through that. We're going to talk about the stories the media keeps pushing to incite this stuff, all the rest of it, how the UK is responding, how the United States is responding. We'll get into all that. Before we get into the main story today, let me tell you guys about today's sponsor, which is Lean from Brickhouse Nutrition. There are some scammy things weight loss products claim to do. You never have to exercise or watch what you eat. Just take this pill and lose weight. Lose up to 50 pounds in a month with our weight loss shake. Apply this weight loss patch and the fat will just melt off. Well, Lean comes from the same guys as Field of Greens, which, as you can see here, and as many of you probably know if you watch a lot of other YouTubers, many of us content creators take the supplement to help our rather lacking diets. Well, Lean is the real deal for weight loss. Lean was created by a medical doctor and university researcher. Even the clinical team behind Lean says if you only have a few pounds to lose, this stuff is not for you. Just exercise a little bit more and improve the diet a little bit. Lean is for frustrated dieters who want to lose meaningful weight but aren't into the Hollywood jabs. Yeah, they kind of work, but they also carry side effects like making you look like a skeletal zombie. These jabs work in part by lowering blood sugar and regulating appetite. Well, the science behind Lean is kind of impressive. Its natural studied ingredients target weight loss in similar ways as these jabs. They help maintain healthy blood sugar. It helps you control your appetite and your cravings. It helps burn fat by converting fat into energy. So if you're ready to lose weight in a smarter way, let me get you started with 20% off your first order. Just use code BACHELOR20, that's BACHELOR20 at TakeLean.com. Again, BACHELOR20 at TakeLean.com. Get your diet cleaned up, start that exercise, and if you have meaningful weight loss to lose, Lean is the right product to help you get started. And now back to me. Ta-da! Isn't it amazing how smooth and clean I can read those ad reads now? I will say this. Yes, you got to eat right. Yes, you got to exercise. There's no magic one thing take all, but there are some supplements out there that are helping you. I got to keep up on mine. I lapse into forgetting, and that's not good. Anyway, okay, so this is from the Associated Press. Fact, focus, no incredible rise in the LGHD TV show. And I want you to listen how they say this, right? They say, some pundits are saying, it's radicalizing all these young people. And they say the data tells a different story. According to gender and criminology experts, these mass events perpetrated by someone identifying as this are rare. While specific data on this stuff is hard to isolate, available information shows the overwhelming majority of assailants in these events are straight guys. Yes, we know that. Yes, we know that the mass number of them are, but that's changing. That's changing. And when you say, well, there's been 3 bad incidents or 4 bad incidents where incels have come forward and done these things, but then we point to the 4 that have happened just in the last year that are all part of this LGHD. Oh, nothing to see. Nothing to see. We will look across 5 or 6 years for 4 guys that say, oh, I was in incel and I couldn't get women don't like me and all that stuff. And now there has to be a national outcry. But when there's 4 in just 1 year, nothing to see here. Everybody move on. It's almost like they're trying to paint a target on particular members of the community. In other words, men. Then you've got this. Of course, now this is the huge story going on in the UK again, even though this originally came out a decade ago. Why is it coming back out in the news now? Because Elon Musk started pointing fingers and saying, hey, whatever happened to that stuff? Why are we not looking into this anymore? And from the Telegraph, Labor cowards vote down a national inquiry into the gangs that are doing this stuff to women. So if your fear is protecting young people, why are you coming after only one group of people doing bad things? Why not look into this? Why say, any inquiries into this stuff, we can't talk about it. Nothing to see here. What about when, members of the LGHD TV community go crazy and 4 or 5 incidents in just a year and a half, or whatever it is? Nothing to see here. It's just nothing. But when you have 4 or 5 incidents that happen across almost a decade, and it's particularly straight white guys, why is it, this is a problem? And again, I think they're focusing mainly on the white guys here because the brothers out there kind of don't do the same thing. They don't decide to target other people and take other people out or take themselves out. They decide to, usually keep it in their own communities. And again, the media just doesn't care because it's black on black harm, and who cares about that? And I hate to say that. Because they should care. They should be going into Chicago and doing some cleanup and finding out what the problem is. But then that would admit that black people commit crimes, and they can't. The Democrats and the media can't say that because then they'd have to call themselves racist. But this is what they focus on over and over and over again. Well, this is the story. This is the news story that was written just 20 hours ago. California is now ramping up because the Biden administration did for 4 years, but now California is ramping this up. And this is from 20 hours ago. So California doesn't want to look into the wildfires just yet. They don't want to look into the 5 or 6 illegal immigrants that have been arrested now, and a matter of fact have been released for starting wildfires. We don't want to look into the illegal immigrants doing that. We don't want to look at the women that have been persecuted and grabbed and given a hard time by Somali refugees or Mexican immigrants or whoever else that has come across the border that are doing these crimes. We don't want to look into any of that because those are the people we want here. We want them. We want the criminals here. We're fine with that. We want the people with brown skin that came here illegally. We're fine with that. We're fine with the homeless lighting places on fire. We're fine with all that. Before I read this, please understand something. What you're going to hear me reading is the little tiny fringe weird communities that do exist online. They are out there. They are the most far underground rabbit hole weird places from the internet. These guys do exist. They do speak this way, and there's like 7 of them. So when you're talking about all things in general as to the percentages of criminality in the United States and in the UK and the rest of it, this is the 0.00001% of men versus the other large percentages of crime that is actually happening. And that's why I think when we're saying, we've got to get these groups to go over after these radicalized young men, you're talking about the fringe of the fringe of the fringe of the fringe. That's why I have a problem with this. There's a billion other things we could be focusing on to fix before this. But again, those would be hard conversations. This is an easy one. They say they want the state to intervene in their dating lives. These incel communities want the state to intervene in their dating lives. These sexually frustrated men believe that society's biased against them, so they should be given a government-issued girlfriend. Incels have attracted attention from the authorities, just not the way they would like. Now, again, what percentage of men are really talking about? The state needs to give us women. They need to provide us these women that will do as we wish. And it's such a small fringe. Really, the conversation came up because there are places, I think one of them might be Denmark, There's other places like in Amsterdam where men are actually given vouchers, disabled men mostly, men that are disabled, men that are not attractive, men that are on the government dole because they have a disability. They're given vouchers or credits to use towards women in the red light district. And so, yes, some men in the incel community have said, hey, that actually sounds kind of nice. I'd like one of those. I'd like one of those vouchers too. I think a lot of you actually would probably like a voucher where you could go hire yourself a 9 out of 10 woman that looks like she's from Russia and the government to spend a couple €100 on you to go have fun with a woman to deal with your stress. I don't think it's just a fringe minority of men that would actually say, that's kind of cool. I do like that, to be honest, if we're just going to be honest. But now that because men that are in the West and other countries say, hey, that's not bad, well, now they can use the line that they demand government-issued girlfriends. Twist. I want you to hear every twist they put in this story to make the men actually seem like they're unreasonable and evil, when in reality, they're just looking for attention from women. That's really what it boils down to. This week, the California Specialized Training Institute is advertising a training session for police across the state who want to learn more about home terror stuff. Alongside anarchism, radical environmentalism, okay, that's left-wing, that's left-leaning, white supreme people, and the sovereign citizen movement. So if you're an environmentalist and you are sovereign citizen, believing the government you shouldn't have to pay the government to have your own land, you shouldn't have to pay taxes on certain things. Once you purchase land, you should own it. You shouldn't have to pay to register a vehicle. That puts you on the same level as homegrown Terry people, the terrorists, and anarchism and environmentalism. Do you see how they're starting to paint a picture of anybody that doesn't do what the government wants them to do, and anybody that doesn't listen to the company line and the corporate line and the government line, they're a risk. And now young white men that feel disenfranchised and they're maybe not left-wing crazies, they're risky too, because they might have their own thoughts and opinions and not agree with the government lines. They say also the flyer lists involuntary celibate extreme people as one of the threats. It went on viral after independent journalist Ken Klippenstein shared it on social media. Now, when that went viral, they were aiming at targets like Rollo Tomassi and Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate and even Alex Jones. You know what I mean? So it's a large lump. But what do all these big lumped-in guys have in common? They will not let the government control them. They will not let the government tell them how they should act, feel. They don't listen to the machine. That's really what's happening here if you want to get to the bigger bubble of it all. The training session this week is hosted by the Orange County Intelligence Assessment Center, one of the many fusion centers created by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to share intelligence between local and federal law enforcement. Although the Fusion Center has not yet responded to a California Public Records Act request for court materials, the law gives it 10 days to do so. Other leaked documents hint at what the class might teach. So they don't even know what the class is about, but they have material that hints at what it's about. And this gives us an opportunity to write an article about white men bad and incels. So let's go ahead and do that anyway, even though we don't have any of the information yet. It defines incel ideology as the belief that women cannot be trusted, well, if we're to be honest, and are not entirely human, but robot-like androids who only crave sleeping with attractive men. I mean, yeah, kind of. They do have their points, don't they? If we do look at the dating culture, yeah, women are kind of admitting they really aren't, they don't have emotions. They don't want to find their forever love. They're kind of into just going out drinking too much and sleeping with attractive guys. That is kind of robotic in its nature, if we're going to be honest about this. So they say they believe they're ugly and no amount of self-improvement will attract women. Okay, that's kind of true too in today's society. I mean, women have come right out and said it in their own dating profiles. If you're not attractive, if you're not 6 foot tall, if you're not all the sixes, I don't want you. Ew, don't talk to me. If you smile at me, I'm calling human services or human resources. So are the guys wrong in their assessment? I don't think so. Because even guys that aren't incels, which is involuntary, even a lot of guys that are still in the dating market, that are still on dating apps, even guys that date women, that actually go on dates with women, They say, yeah, women are kind of like this now. So again, it's anything that is negative or harsh or criticizing women. That's really what they're calling an incel now. They say they want access to women's bodies without their input. That's not true. That is not true. But again, they can take a couple of lines and twist it. And here's why I say that I don't think this is going to be a problem going forward. And I genuinely mean this. Because now these young men that are, white and straight and that have traditionally been the men that kind of fall off the outskirt edges of society and kind of go crazy. These young men now can hire a girlfriend on OnlyFools. These young men now can hit most major websites, save up $400 or $500 or $600. It's expensive depending on how unattractive you are. And they can go out and hire women. They can go out and hire professionals. And they're told by society that this is acceptable, it is okay, and it is real work. So out of all the people I think in society that are not going to be problematic, it's the guys that say they want access to women's bodies because they can have it now. It's on the internet. It's in person, and it's being cheered on by the women themselves, ironically. They say as possible ways to deal with these incels, the slideshow suggests intervention by their online community. I think that's okay. I think having other people that can be in these communities saying, guys, this is like, you're kind of going dark. You're not, shaming them a little bit, saying, hey, all you feet and armpit guys that, okay, you're crazy. Yes, I will always make fun of the feet and armpit guys. Yes, but the communities get banned. The communities get removed off Reddit. The communities get removed off the internet. And so these guys have to keep going in darker and darker holes on the internet to find each other and have the conversations, and there are no normies in there to kind of pull them out of their funk. This is what happens when you shut down free speech. You cause people to run into deeper rabbit holes that are harder to find, and they can get a little crazy. How do I know? Female dating strategy on Reddit. They say, what else here? They should be intervention by their online community, authorities, and acquaintances. Well, this has been shamed. You can't talk about this with acquaintances and friends, and you certainly are not going to be talking about it to authorities. You should never talk to an authority, ever. I don't answer questions. I will only speak with my lawyer. That is your only answer to ever say to anybody with a badge, including your postman. In August 2019, the Portland Police Bureau Criminal Intelligence Unit put out a bulletin seeking information on a Reddit user who wrote and then deleted. People ask, are you okay? But never, are you planning to do these bad things downtown on this date with this type of implement? And yes, I think it is good that you go after people like that. But how is it that they can look into this incident, this specific incident, and they find this guy that posted this in Reddit, yet they're not posting about people saying, I'm going to go into a school and do these things, and he was known to the FBI, but they didn't do anything. The Thomas Crooks, the guy that, took some shots at Trump there, he had phone calls made on him, and he was known to the FBI, yet they didn't do anything about him. But when somebody says, well, I'm not going after Trump, I'm going after a woman, we better pay attention to that. Notice it always seems to, or the people that say, I'm going to take a vehicle and drive into a crowd during a Christmas event, they never seem to stop those people before they actually get something done. But the ones that are saying, I'm going to go do this to women, well, they seem to stop those before anything gets done. Why is that? It's because of all things in society, women, leftist women, and LGHD TV people, they're the highest protected class. Then sprinkled down below them, somewhere way down below them, are the rest of us, including you fellas out there with a little bit of melanin in your skin. They don't stop certain things from happening even when it's known to them. They only focus on one or two things. The most protected classes among us. And that is not men. That is not minorities in cities. It is women and the LGHD TV. Because the LGHD TV line up very nicely with feminists and weirdos. Let's just be honest with it. I could go down through the rest of this, but it's kind of the same old, same old. They're all talking about we need to call out these young men that are saying these things bad about women because women are a protected class. Unless you're in the UK, unless you're under the age of 18, and unless you're being, You're being harmed by Muslim men, 1,500 of them. Then there's nothing to see here. Isn't it crazy how the hierarchy of who's okay and who's not, and who's at the highest rung of the oppression Olympics, it changes on the day because it depends what happens, see? If a white man gives a white woman a hard time, the white man is bad. If a black dude gives a white woman a hard time, if an illegal immigrant comes across the border and is here on visa and he gives a white woman a hard time, if 1,500 of them in the UK give young women hard times and do very... So it depends. Now, what if a white woman gets in an argument with a black lesbian? Then the black lesbian... It's always what pushes their narrative at the time. So in many cases, white women, white Karens, white Democrat Karens, have both the most power and the least amount of power when it comes to women. They're either the most powerful or the least powerful, depending. You're a man. If you're a man, you can have a dominance and power over a white woman if you're an illegal immigrant, young fighting age male. Then if you do something to a woman like Lake and Riley and bash her head in, isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? But what do you notice in the chain that is always the same? Whether illegal immigrant versus woman versus, well, white dudes are always at the bottom, and slightly above that, if not in a tie, is black dudes. Do you see how this, the oppression Olympics? And look, as a white dude, let me just be clear about this. As a white dude, I genuinely do not feel persecuted in my own personal life. Yes, there's news stories out there against us. Yes, there's these articles and the Department of Justice coming for us for our thoughts. But in reality, from day-to-day life, walking around doing my thing, I do not feel persecuted against. I feel pretty lucky in that regard that the Karens and the feminists that yell at me in my real life, they have no dominion or power over me. They really don't. And for the most of us white dudes, in everyday, and you can say what you want about diversity in colleges and not getting into college. I think that's actually a good thing. You're not going to get indoctrination seminars for $200,000. You're not going to have these big loans to pay back. So I actually think it's a good thing colleges are kind of keeping white dudes out. I wish they'd kind of keep out the black dudes as well so they don't go in and get into debt to learn nothing. I wish just all men were not allowed to go to college anymore. I think that would actually serve men the best. I know you engineers and others don't agree, but even Elon Musk the other day, and I wish I'd saved this post, but Elon Musk said, we're hiring. And I think he's hiring for Grok AI. And he said, I don't care what college you go to. I don't even care if you went to college. I don't care your education level. We're looking for coders. Send us your code. Now you might say, to learn to code, you need to go to college. No, you don't. Not with AI, not with Indian dudes on YouTube teaching videos. You don't need to go to college to learn how to code. As a matter of fact, if you go to college to learn how to code, you get 2 classes on coding and 18 credit hours on dismantling the patriarchy. So in reality, you'll probably learn more coding if you listen to Indian dudes on YouTube than you would on going to college, if we're just being honest about it. So you can say, college, but that doesn't really matter. The work world, white collar. I agree, there are some issues with that. But again, if an institution or a business will not hire you based on your skin color, then you don't want to work for that company, period. So even if they did hire you, you're going to have to go through diversity training. You're going to have to go through emotional sensitivity training and harassing training and all the other stuff. You don't want to work for that company. Trust me. I used to work for one and they started doing this stuff and a lot of us left. I quit. It's one of the main reasons I quit. I used to work for Cisco, not the food company SYSCO, but Cisco Systems as a network engineer. That's what I did for a living. Made $120,000 a year doing it. I decided to leave because of all the policies they were putting in and all the woke people that they were, well, you can't fire that guy, he's Latino, and you can't fire that one because it's a woman, but fire these other engineers that are actually good at their job. And that included, I want to say 2 Asians and a white guy. But anyway, my whole point is that they only seem to target certain groups. And so in day-to-day, and the reason why I'm saying this, because I do have black friends out there. I do listen to the lamentations and the black community out there saying, okay, you can say what you want about DEI and the rest of it. Black community still has it worse. I can't argue with that. And I don't think it's necessarily the systemic racism and all that stuff that everybody talks about, because I think it's actually leftists. Because if you notice, the places that they say racism is the worst, like Hollywood, Hollywood's awful. Okay, you're a bunch of Democrats. California laws to protect against racism. Okay, you're supermajority Democrats. So it just kind of goes to bolster my point that I think it's less white dudes that are racist and systemic racism. I think it's just Democrats and lefties, if I'm just to be honest. Anyway, Gender Studies for Men came out with this. He says this is a wonderful short video segment by Matt Gaetz on how the lesbian extremists are promoting the idea to law enforcement that people who are involuntarily celibate or incels are domestic terrorists.
Orange County, California used to be a Republican stronghold, an island of sanity in a sea of California liberalism. So as California continues to burn from daunting wildfires, we thought we'd check in on Orange County government to see if we could locate logic or reason. We found out things have changed in Orange County. Their bureaucratic buffoonery has reached a level that would make the warlords from the Chaz blush. The Orange County Intelligence Assessment Center exists in part to train local officials on how to respond to developing threats of terrorism and domestic extremism. If you see something, say something, I guess. Involuntary celibate extremism. Yes, you heard that right. In a state where you're more likely to encounter a traffic jam than a terrorist, we're now arming our cops with the tools to combat the scourge of social awkwardness and involuntary celibacy? I just called involuntary celibacy the 11th grade. But Orange County thinks that those who aren't getting any action might blow things up. It got us thinking, how in the world do you police this involuntary celibacy? Imagine this. Officer Friendly, instead of patrolling the streets for actual felons, is now tasked with understanding the nuances of why Earl is angry that nobody swiped right on his Tinder profile. The syllabus for this training has to be just comedy gold. Week 1, what are they going to study? The memes of mass isolation? Maybe in week 2, they'll dive into understanding the cry of the keyboard warrior. Officers will be trained in the art of sympathy for those whose only crime is a lack of game. By week 3, how to tell if someone has been ghosted and just can't deal. Will they bomb a federal building? Let's hope not. The course concludes with trips to Comic-Con to see how incels act in their very unnatural environment. In a state where you need a permit to water your lawn, we're now dictating to law enforcement that they have to combat the battle of loneliness in the bedroom? With crime rates that are anything but involuntary, we're focusing resources on those whose only crime is being bad at flirting. It's crazy.
And I think this is an accurate way that how I and probably many of you portray this, is they try to go in and make everything over the top, when in reality, it's just a bunch of dudes that realize, you know what, the market's not that great for dating anymore. And that, yeah, women have issues. I know this is surprising. Yes, women can actually have issues. And if we can't talk about it, like the adults in the room, and we have to pretend women are perfect, well, the men are going to talk about it. We're going to have conversations about it. And you can try to come after us if you want. There's a problem, though. Most of us guys, a lot of us are not involuntary. We've voluntarily walked away from dating. We've moved away from these corners of the internet, and we're just participating in life as a normal, average, everyday guy. It's almost like they're targeting red pill rage specifically, not understanding that, yeah, guys are going to vent on the internet, and yes, when guys get over it, but then they're going to move on with their lives. There's nothing to see here. It's nothing big. We do videos like this, or like the next video I'm going to be doing here shortly, the female dating crisis, where these women go over the top and have gone absolutely insane. And that's how we cope, and that's how we deal with it. The percentage of men that actually get into crisis and go out and do harmful things is less than the number of people. There have been less young men that have gone into educational centers and wiped people out. There's been less men that have done that in a decade than there have been with men ending other men in Chicago in one weekend. 10 years versus one weekend. And they decide, instead of looking at these communities that are having problems, instead of looking at the LGHD TV that are having mental instability, instead of looking at all these issues, instead they're going to focus on something that's happened 4 or 5 times in a decade. From Psychology Today, and this is just written last year, are some men becoming hostile towards women? Yes, and the reason might surprise you. I don't think the reason is going to surprise us, but here's what they say. Has the generosity of some American men towards their female colleagues run into an invisible wall? Sometimes the answer seems to be yes. It's not sometimes for a lot of us men. The answer is straight up yes. Because women have become hostile towards men. Women shame men. Women hate on men. Women say we're pay pigs and we're to be used and discarded because of our money. Or if you're lucky enough at least to be good looking, you're to be used and discarded after being slept with. Those guys aren't complaining so much if we're being honest. But the rest of us are saying yes. Women are now outwardly saying they hate us, and thus we're coming right back at you. So maybe change does not beget more change. Generosity does not beget more generosity. Maybe the opposite is occurring. Some of us are thinking that the progress women have made is permanently reshaping our social ecology. But what really may be happening is that women are being told by some men, we gave you all this stuff, but enough is enough. Time to go back to the way it used to be. Actually, yes, we are. I am one of them that says that. We gave you everything. First, we gave you the ability to marry and have children and stay home and be stay-at-home moms and take care of the kids and take care of the homes. And you said that wasn't enough. You wanted to be free, independent women. So we gave you freedom. We gave you the right to vote. We gave you the right to work. We gave you the right to earn as much money. And in many cases today, you're out-earning men. We gave you the right to sleep with whoever you wanted to sleep with, and now we can't shame you. We gave you the right to sell your bodies for money, and you're doing so at incredibly high levels on OnlyFools and other content. Now you're out there bragging that you're sleeping with hundreds, if not thousands of men, like some of these OnlyFools content creators are doing, and we can't say anything. We've given you all that, and what do you turn and do to thank us? You tell us we're undateable, we're miserable, we're angry, we're incels, we're ugly, we don't make enough money, we don't have all the sixes. We gave you everything, and all you did is turn around and tell us to fuck off. So yes, our kindness is done. Now, when we tell you to get the back in the kitchen, it is because of the opinions that you're now espousing to the men that gave you everything. Can you blame men, though? Can you blame men that say, I wanted to give you everything. I wanted to be kind. I gave you the world, and all you did is spit in our faces and now rub salt in the wounds and tell us that we're awful and horrible. And still, you say that you're both yet stunning and brave and strong and powerful, but yet also a victim at the same time. Do you see why this isn't working so well for you? They say the search for more perfect union has been a long journey for American women, filled with interruptions and much backsliding. Abigail, and they go back into John Adams times. We're not going back that far today. Keegan Hanks, and now listen to who they're listening to. Who they're listening to as the analyst. This is important. Keegan Hanks, an analyst for the Southern Poverty Law Center. Now, if you don't know who SPLC is, they're a far left-wing activist group that is all on board with the LGHD TV and feminism. They're an activist group. So that would be like asking a far right-leaning hard MAGA Republican what he thinks of feminism. That would be about the same. So you're going to hear some hate here, granted. They're now labeling it male supremacist, for those of you on YouTube. It's a fundamental foundation of the United States, not only historically, also, but of the new alt-right. She said the SPLC decided to create several new categories of bias because of male supremacists had become impossible to ignore. The group's effort to better highlight organized misogyny began in 2018 when we started monitoring male supreme hate groups. These misogynistic beliefs, so depressingly familiar and widespread, have hardened into a more distinct force in recent years and have been fueled by the election of Donald J. Trump and the resurrection of white supremacist groups in American political life. Do you understand now why men are saying, enough? We let you get into CEO positions. We hired you. We rose you. We put you in college. You're now in college graduating at a higher rate than men. You're now in tech jobs almost at a higher rate than men. Granted, it's mostly the media side of things. You're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year working for Facebook and Meta and some of these other tech companies, and you're posting day of the life of videos where you're not working and you're just eating raspberry smoothies and sitting around sunbathing on the roof while you make $200,000 a year, and at the same time scream that patriarchy is awful, how dare these men, and those are the men you're harshing on, are making $50,000 a year roofing. Yes, of course, men have had enough. And then when we ask women, what do you think of men? Viral videos come out of, we don't need men, and who needs men, and screw men. So you're saying in the same breath that women are strong and powerful and run all these institutions, and they make the money, and they're making more money than men, and men need to step up the plate because there's no good men. And then in the very next sentence you say, because men have all the power. Do you realize how stupid they sound? We do, they don't. That's why they're having a crisis of conscience, because as they gain more power, eventually there's no one left to blame but themselves. But they can't do that. So they have to invent invisible boogeymen to come after, like incels and celibate men and single men and men that are going their own way. They must come up with invisible boogeymen because there's no one left to blame except themselves, and they never, ever will do that. And then I'm going to leave it with this. This is why men say, actually, there's two things. In a new browser, let me open something up in a new browser. Give me just a moment. This is a guy interviewing women, asking them, how would you change the Constitution? You know, the bedrock of our founding here in the United States. Listen to these women's answers.
Constitution in one way, how would you change it?
Perverse gov major. Georgetown
I was
University.
literally going to say legalize abortion. Maybe abortion laws. Yeah.
Now, remember, this first one said government. She's a gov major, which means her major is studying the government. This is what they want to put into codified law and how we manage our country.
So if you guys could change the Constitution in one way, how would you change it?
Perverse gov major. Georgetown
I was
University.
literally going to say legalize abortion. Maybe abortion laws, rights to abortion, like transgender rights to have surgery without necessarily parental consent.
Without parental consent, the rights to turn boys into girls and girls into boys without parental consent, using our government and the law of the Constitution to allow the government to steal children from their parents and change a boy to a girl, a girl to a boy at any age. That is where we are. And then when men say women shouldn't vote, oh, how dare you? How dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you say women shouldn't vote? This is why. When men say, I don't like young people today, I don't like young women today, this is why. Because they're insane.
To have surgery without necessarily parental consent.
Yes, you have freedom of speech, but that doesn't mean you have right to sit there and scream at someone because they choose to change their gender or they love the same sex, things like that.
I just think we need to get the old white fucks out of power, but that's not really a Constitution issue.
So if you guys...
All right. Well, let's... I'm going to rewind this. I want to play this last segment here. We'll play it again. We're going to slow this down just a little bit.
I just think we need to get the old white fucks out of power, but that's not really a Constitution issue.
So if you...
Okay, so it's all right for women to say, let's get the old white fucks, meaning men, out of power by force if necessary. But a man that says, I don't like women. I don't think they should vote. I don't think that they should have the rights to, baby deletion. I don't think they're the threat. Where's the outcry? Where's the people asking the guy that interviewed these women? Where did you interview these women? We'd like to have some words with them. They sound dangerous. They sound like they might hurt somebody. This last woman, she sounds like she might hurt somebody. Where did you film this, dear interviewer? We'd like to talk to... Nope, nothing to see here. It's just women talking about the patriarchy. But they can say that because men are in power. But are they, though? I would say they aren't. Look at the school systems. Look at the media. Look at social media. Look at the news agencies, the news writers. Look at the women that are writing movies, commercials. They're in everything. We never said they shouldn't be in everything. We didn't have any problems with them doing it in the 60s or the 70s or the 80s or the 90s or the aughts, the 2010s. When did all this change? When women said we don't need men anymore, we hate men. Men should go away. Men are evil. We just use men. Then men said, you know what, I'm going to push back against this. And the moment men pushed back, evil, I'm going to have to blur the hell out of this one. Let me open this image in a new tab. I'm going to have to blur this one to be sure. I mean, it's already got some coverage up, but you know that's not enough for YouTube. This is that dingbat. What's her name again? What's her name? Bonnie Blue. This is from World Star Hip Hop. Woman who broke the record by claiming to sleep with 1,057 men in 12 hours shows the aftermath of the room filled with used prophylactics. And she says, your husband's used protection. And this is the photo that of part of the video that she uploaded. And when men say, this is gross, when men say, please stop putting this on the cover of newspapers and web pages, stop putting this shit out there because it's fucking gross and women are gross and they're being gross and they're being whores and we're tired of it. They say, nothing to see here. This is just a woman being stunning and brave. They attack the men that attack this. Do you understand the irony? They hate the men that say this is gross and we need to stop doing this. Those men, they go after. The men that slay, you slay, girl, and you got it. Go make your bank and go make your money. They have no problems with those men. It's because they're trying to tear down dating, marriage, the family system. There's a reason why birth rates are lower than ever. They do it on purpose. Understand that. And they come the hardest against the men that want to stop this the most. What I actually said about this is literally that. From my X feed, it seems that men are the loudest voices against this. Ironically, it's the women pushing for more of it, saying it's empowering. No wonder men don't want women anymore. Of course we don't. This is from World Star. Only Fools content creator, Bonnie Blue, claims she just broke the record by sleeping with 1,057 men in 12 hours. That's literally impossible. That would be like 40 seconds a dude. And you notice, now granted, World Star Hip Hop is it's a clickbait like site. But you notice that the same type of information is now on the front pages of the New York Post. It's in backstories of CNN. This is what they want from society. They want the breakdown of society. They want us to hate each other. And ironically, men gave women everything, and they supported them over and over and over again, right up until women said, we hate men. And then the men reacting to the women saying, we hate men. And the men react by saying, well, all right, then I guess we'll hate you too. That's the real problem. Women have been hating on men for a decade or more. But now when men get a little bit of red pilling out into the real world, when men make strides and actually have YouTube channels and videos and things going viral, calling out these awful women, only then do they care. Only then are they concerned about the backlash against women's idiocracy. Idiocy, I know that's the real thing. It's idiocy, but Idiocracy is a movie you should definitely go check out. Only then do they have problems. They don't get mad for what women are doing. They only get mad for men calling them out.